Welcome back to the Education on Fire podcast network. This network is sponsored by NAPE, the National Association for Primary Education. And I just wanted to come on and let you know of an event which is coming up, which fits in really nicely with our English and literacy season. Every year they have a guest speaker come to their Christian Schiller lecture, which is based and inspired by the works of Christian Schiller. And this year it's being given by Professor Teresa Kremin, who's going to be speaking about reading for pleasure, developing readers for life. And the lecture is going to explore the cognitive, social and emotional benefits of reading, and in particular it will follow on how, when teachers share their reading lives and books in common with children, new and closer relationships develop between reader to reader and human to human. So if you go to the show notes, you can find out more details about how to register in advance. It's an absolutely free event. If you go to educationonfire.com and in the search bar put 090, this particular episode will come up and give you all the details that you need and the flyer and how to get in contact. It's on the 29th of April in Oxford Brookes University, and it just involves sending your email details to register in advance at the National Office. Hope you enjoyed today's show, and many thanks for listening. Hello and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place where we share creative and inspiring learning in our schools. Season 6, Episode 90. Hello, welcome back to the Education on Fire podcast with me, Mark Taylor. Today, as part of our English and literacy season, I'm delighted to be joined by Emmy and Taran, and they are the Enchanted Wanderers, and they're two primary school teachers who are immersing children in a world of art, music, circus and drama through the power of storytelling, which is intriguing to begin with. So, hi Emmy and Taran, and thanks for joining me.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
We're so glad to be here.
That's fantastic. I'm delighted that you could join us. And so, from that introduction, give us a bit more of a detailed background of exactly what it is that you're doing over there in Australia at the moment. And I know you're based from the UK originally as well.
Oh, you're right. We are two primary school teachers.
We are currently in Australia, usually based in the UK. We're from our kind of primary school background. We saw a lot of good things in schools, and we absolutely love being in a school, in a teacher environment. But we also wanted to create something using our own kind of personal skills that we've built up over our life, to give children an extra bit of kind of extra
Magic.
Experience, a bit of magic, that just gives them a bit of space to be themselves a bit more. We find schools they have to be regimented. They have to be, the key word in a school is consistency. And that doesn't give teachers a chance to be themselves or children a chance to be themselves. So we wanted to offer something inside and outside of a school that just provides a bit of space for children to express themselves in a way that kind of suits them best.
Were you able to do that actually as teachers within your school, or did you actually feel that you needed to sort of escape the system in terms of being able to sort of really sort of fulfill that idea?
Yeah, no, do you know what? There were so many opportunities to try and do that in the classroom. Often it came with Em's going to go and do that and try and encourage us as staff and as children to also do a little bit of the same too. I worked in a beautiful school which actually had a lot of opportunity to be creative and immerse the children in different worlds. It took a little bit of extra hard work to do and a little bit of extra thinking to think outside the box, but definitely found there was opportunity and space inside a classroom setting to do just that.
And I think you're right. I think it's setting the scene yourself, isn't it, as a member of staff? And I remember hearing various things, people talk about Ofsted and things have to be a certain way, but when they do come across a very creative school and the ethos of that creativity and that support of children to sort of live their lives in that way, the school is usually very vibrant, and that is actually what everybody wants in learning. There are sort of prescriptive elements of the assessments and all that kind of thing, but if you're able to sort of let go of all that and just do what you know is the best for the children from a creative standpoint, then I think the rest of it does actually all come as well. Yeah,
absolutely. If the school trusts the teachers, then you get that creative flow. You get you might have 3 year 3 classes, and all the teachers can be doing their own thing in their own way, and it works for everybody. And that's where the restrictions come in. If all the 3 classes have to look the same, then one beautiful creative teacher's ideas might not get put in because the other two teachers are less confident with that. And that's about kind of training together and doing it together. But that is kind of a way that it makes it feel quite hard.
Yeah, no, I can really see that. And so how did Enchanted Wanderers come about from sort of being teachers initially?
Well, it was a beautiful sunny Sunday afternoon, and we've been kind of thinking about different worlds. Of course, we have many conversations about education and the different elements which we find really important and kind of want to encourage our children to have an experience in. And we thought that actually all the different things that we do, wouldn't it be great if we led a storytelling workshop which incorporated the art and the drama and music and circus? And it kind of snowballed from this very one brilliantly said, shall we do this sort of idea?
We'd been away to Cornwall for a week, and we just got back, and we were sat in the car, and we sat in the car for about 2 hours because we started the conversation at the end of our journey and then just didn't leave the car because we were just kind of snowballing all our ideas, and then we were like, actually, let's do this. We've got like I've kind of come from a teaching but in different ways background with like fencing and all different things, and I was teaching circus in a hotel, and I'm self-taught entirely, admittedly, but I've been doing that for a long time, so I've got this circus skills background that I really wanted to share, and Em's done a whole art degree which is kind of more qualified than I, but
yeah, no, I see a lot of room and space for the creative style of letting the children engage and not doing it in just a prescriptive way, and coming from having done an art degree and a foundation degree in art too, and then being a specialist in my primary school teaching, I felt that actually both of us together could create something that's quite unique for the children to come and be a part of.
And it really sounds as if you've got that sort of great both sides of the coin there. You've got the understanding, obviously you've got the education background, and you've got the artistic side, but I think that ability to be able to just have that space, like you say, we're going to do a bit of this, and you've got some circus, and you can already imagine the children around you going, yeah, we could do that, and I love this, and I can see that, and it's a very different environment then, isn't it? And I think that's the key, because it's through the environment which actually all these experiences really sort of come to life for the children.
Entirely that. We've noticed that actually no one workshop is the same, because of course we've got a completely different bunch of children coming from all different walks of life, and being a part of it, and they'll just attach themselves to something that they're really, really focused on wanting to learn and to incorporate into a story that they're then creating or even perform at the end of the day, which is fab.
It surprises the children as well. They're not expecting themselves to have done what they just did, whether it's get up and perform, or some children will have their parents say, oh, I know it's a storytelling workshop and you can write, but my child doesn't really like to write that much. And then they'll sit there or lie there for the last hour and a half just writing a story, because they've had that space that's a little bit different to what they used to. And actually we like to think we're empowering the children to do what they've chosen to do that day, through like kind of being immersed in our own little world.
And we merely are just the facilitators of it all, with a little bit of the knowledge behind in terms of skills, and teaching them the kind of the different elements in which we want them to just run with.
And that essence of them being able to do what they want in their way, that's just a billion miles away, isn't it, from kind of, and now we're going to sit down to an hour of English, and that is the essence of, like you say, someone exactly. Not liking to read and write, but actually really doing when they've got the ability to do it.
Yeah, timetables in a school often restrict teachers greatly, and often you hear people saying, actually, we just need to spend a little bit extra finishing our story, or maybe we actually need to spend some time producing the story into a book and illustrating it, actually celebrating the learning. And I think that really kind of helped inspire our next bit of project that we've been working on recently.
Yeah, so we should probably dive in and talk a little bit about the projects that you do offer and how it all works, and it's specifically in terms of the storytelling and the drama and how schools can get involved with it all.
Definitely.
So We kind of tried to keep it nice and simple. We did our first thing was to do a little tour. We set up a tour around Devon, and we did that entirely ourselves, and find ourselves doing far more work than we'd ever imagined.
Most definitely. It came from a lovely community of people helping us, didn't it? Helping us fundraise for our for the workshops to happen and to go ahead.
And ringing venues and just trying to book lots of people on was quite I don't know, it worked, but it wasn't quite it for what we wanted to do.
Definitely labour intensive. Lots of phone calls to lots of schools to get them involved, phoning, press releases, and going on a radio show. We were also on a radio show. There was just lots of different elements to getting what we're doing out there. So that tour, although hard work, was pretty epic. And
now that we're out there, we're just available to book. You can go onto our website and all the Facebooky things and Instagram and all of that to find out a bit more. But schools can just get in touch, email us, and it's hard to say exactly what we'll do because the school will get in touch and say what they're after, and we'll make sure that it kind of works for them. We don't want our day to fit in too much with their literacy plan of current. We like it to be a standalone day, but in terms of timings and all of that, then we're definitely flexible because every school and every class are going to be different and they're all going to have different needs. But
most definitely, I think it's one of those days where you remember somebody coming into school and doing something a little different. This one isn't just like watching a performance, for example. This one is becoming involved in it and then taking it to the next level. So how that works in a school day is it can be a whole school day to go alongside with the workshop we've written. We also offer bespoke kind of individual if you want to focus more on one of the skills in particular. Say it's an art skill or a circus skill, we do that too. And we are contactable on, like Taran said, our Facebook and our website, and even by our email. We are the Enchanted Wanderers, so most of those are all called Enchanted Wanderers.
Fantastic. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that all of those links are on the show page for this podcast. So if you go to educationonfire.com and in the search bar, just put Enchanted Wanderers, and on there, then the show page will come up, and I'll have all those links and all the details to this show, so people can just click through very easily and find exactly what they need, which should be perfect for you. Which hopefully you will be able to get lots of people get in contact.
Did you want us to run through kind of what a day in the project looks like in a workshop? Looks like?
That would be lovely. Yeah, please do that.
So the children come into the space, and then we've got our set up. So there's and we made this ourselves as a huge prop that kind of, it makes the children, as soon as they walk in, they're like, whoa, what is this? They've got that excitement. They've got that magic immediately. And they meet one of the characters. They build a bit of a relationship. That character starts to tell the story. So the children are listening at the start, but they're also involved. They're getting up, they're joining in, they're becoming a part of the story. Another character comes in, and then there's a really I really enjoy this bit. There's a really enjoyable standoff between the two characters and the children. Then they kind of decide who they trust, because they're such a part of the story. Everything is all together now, and once the story's finished, we'll then start with a bit of art.
We collaborate together and kind of really encourage the whole idea of team and listening and just knowing that other people's ideas are okay to kind of to use and then to work upon and to help start to inspire that first spark of thought, of planning.
From something as simple as all just using the same really long one bit of paper, that togetherness of kind of doing it together just really brings that group in on the same project. And then each character has their own skill set that the children are going to need for when they enter our next world. So we teach them the skills they're going to need in order to progress through the story. And then towards the end of it, they all get the choice of how they continue our story for us. They sort of tell the third chapter, and they can act it, they can write it, they can mime it, they can do whatever it is that they want in order to show us the rest of it. And they can do it individually or in groups. And they can even draw it. They can do more of the art projects. They can just make a map of the new world. We do tea paper stuff, and we make scrolls. And then at the end of it, we invite all the parents to come and see what they've been doing across the whole day. So they're invited in, and they'll probably, I mean, we've never had a workshop without a performance at the end, have we?
No, the beautiful thing is every single child wants to learn, wants to create and make. We've had so many different versions or so many different ways of the story being continued. It's incredible. And actually, us linking back to the fact that we want the children to feel like they've produced something, to feel like it's something worth showing somebody, even if they've spent ages creating a map of the new world on a scroll paper with beautiful kind of sawn cut scroll ends and the tea stained paper, in which they're a process of making too. They then feel like even if they don't want to read the story, which most of the time actually, they're really excited to do that, even if it's just with a supportive one of us just being in their show too with them. They feel like sharing it. They feel really proud of what it is that they've done that day. And it's definitely shows from the show. We don't organise the show.
No. When you want something to be child-led and you have parents come in, sometimes you can have a lot of teacher input where it looks like quite a well put together show.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're not so fussed about that. If our show looks like a 5-year-old has done it, then great, because then we know it's child-led. But actually the parents really love that. They appreciate that, and they value that. Actually, they know that everything's been put together by their children, which is quite nice.
It takes the pressure off the children too. And most of the time we have children who at the start don't want to. The thought of doing something like that is actually definitely not at all the focus of the day. We briefly mention it right at the beginning, and then it doesn't actually get mentioned again until much later on, where they've had time to think and respond and know what it is that they're feeling. And then even then they might not think, oh, I'm going to do that. And they start to see people encouraging people, even working together as a team to go and do it. They've all suddenly learnt how to juggle, and actually there's 3 of them that want to juggle at the same time together, and that's fantastic. And we love that the fact that it's child-led gives them kind of a pressureless way of celebrating what it is that they can do.
I really love the freedom from the moment, the fact if you're there for a day, the whole idea of a timetable goes out the window, which is great because it just sets a very different scene for the day. And I can just sort of imagine, like you were saying, that one massive piece of paper and everyone working together, which is just a long way away from here's my book that I've got to sit and write a story in. And I think children experiencing that, and like you say, being able to take it through the whole project in terms of understanding what that feels like and listening and, like you say, working together and collaborating and coming up with an end product which doesn't need to look a certain way, so therefore it's not a question of being right or wrong, it just is. I mean, that's just so the opposite to the way their experience at school often is, that I think that must be incredibly refreshing, and it gets in touch with them, because that is essentially how children learn anyway, isn't it? And I think that must be very impactful for them.
Most definitely. And actually they do go through barriers, the children. They want to start again. They want to get whatever it is right. And the moment that they learn that actually there is no right and there is no wrong, it's just what it is that they're trying to put across. There's a few who go, and they might come back and check and go, is it okay if I do this? And they'll come back again and go, I've done this, is this all right? And the fact that both Taran and I are able to say, wow, that's great, that's your idea, that's fantastic. The moment of realization is amazing to witness. It's great to be a part of.
And we can be we're really proud of the fact that this is the kind of workshop and scenario where you get the parents at the end coming up to you and the teacher saying, this child has never stood up in front of anyone before, or this child's never written like this before, or we do, I mean, it sounds quite big, but it happens. We're really proud of that. We create scenarios that children wouldn't normally put themselves in, but they feel so empowered and free to do that within this workshop.
And funnily enough, we've spoken a lot about the show. And clearly we really wanted to, but it's actually not the biggest part of the day, which I love that there's still a little bit of hidden secrecy about actually what goes on and the enchantedness of what the children are actually going to step into. It is all encompassing, and both Tara and I try to do that in the classroom too. So I guess it's kind of then taking those ideas of that freedom into a classroom setting and having a head teacher, having staff, having people that believe in your autonomy of being able to do it and giving you time to be able to show that.
And in terms of the age of the children involved, what sort of age groups are you generally working with?
We've kind of narrowed it down to 6 to 10-ish. We get a lot of 11 and 12-year-olds who would love it and they'd fully get involved. But when you have across the ages, sometimes you can have the 11, 12-year-olds suddenly become too cool for it. And it works less. Some of them are great and they'll really get involved. But when the age range is too big, we find it can discourage the older ones. Where actually, if it was just that age group, they absolutely love it as well, and they really take it quite far. So we found 5 was a little bit too young for the circus skills, but 6 to 10 is the perfect range. I'm a big fan of mixed age groups because I think they really help each other a lot. I love a school that's got mixed age classes. That can add a lot to a child's education. So yeah, 6 to 10 is our main bracket.
Yeah, I love that sort of peer-to-peer support and effort that goes on. It can really make, like I say, make a big difference, and it changes the whole dynamic, which I always think is wonderful. So I'm just going to pivot slightly here because I know one of the other projects which you're doing is the YouTube storytelling as well. So how did that come about, and how do people get involved in that idea?
That came about from our workshops. We had all these stories that children were writing or telling or creating, and then it's done. The day's finished, and nothing ever happens again. And in school, they'll spend sometimes 3 or 4 weeks working towards a story, putting all this time in to plan it and to learn it, and they do so much with it. And then at the end of it, the teacher writes a 3-word comment because that's all we've got time to do. And then we've got to move on to the next thing. And that story's never, ever looked at again. And this child just put a massive amount of their time and effort into that. So we thought it'd actually just be really nice to take that a bit further and celebrate it a bit more. And kids love YouTube. So
we can't deny that one.
Yeah. We thought for the idea of the excitement it would bring for a child to have their story told by storytellers on YouTube would bring a bit of inspiration and kind of motivation, because not all children enjoy writing. That's fine. So to give them something extra to want to write about, I thought would be a nice thing.
And yeah, we definitely like to add a little bit of purpose.
Purpose is huge.
And if actually the children have something that they've got to write for, whether it's a writing competition, whether it's a story at school, whether it's something that could be shown on our YouTube channel, then we want to be a part of inspiring kids from all the way from Australia. So we want to stay very much a part of England and the storytelling world, and knowing the children that we've taught and then the children we've connected with over our workshops to be able to offer them something in our YouTube channel.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you have the smallness of this workshop that happens in a school on one day, and then the fact that you've gone from England, and as you were just talking about, you're in Australia touring around at the moment, and I know you've got family over there as well, to then this kind of the new world, which is just a global world, where just in the sense of just emailing a story to someone and then it just suddenly being online where people can see it, not just today, but at any point in the future, and also no matter where you are in the world, you can share it as well. And I love the way that this is all coming together now and being part of education. It's about the here and now, in this moment, in this room, but it's also such a global phenomenon as well.
Yeah, and for me, it's about children realising that what they're doing is worth it, that what their ideas are worth hearing. And if, as a 7-year-old, you suddenly realise that your voice is important, then you're going to take that through to your adult life and you're going to use it and you're going to be important in whatever you're doing. So it seems like a really small thing to take to such a massive level, but I really believe that if we empower them at a young age, they'll believe in themselves a lot more.
That's sort of two sides of the project there. Is there anything else that you want to let everybody know that you're involved in, and also let them know how they can actually get involved in all these things and the best way for them to contact you?
Well, they are the two main projects at the moment. Although we run our own workshops and organise them too, when we get back to the UK in 2020, which seems mad to be talking about, we will be available to run workshops in schools. So if anything that has kind of inspired or clicked with you as a listener of this wonderful podcast, then please get in touch on our Enchanted Wanderers website or on our email, which I believe is going to be on the link below, which is very, very helpful.
So the main workshop, but we do run circus skills days and art days and the other little bits that weave into that.
We do. We run them either as kind of a way in which a whole school could be involved and come to mini shorter workshops, or we can run them specifically for a class or a year group, depending on how the school works, as either half days or whole days, which is all on our website. But also, if there's something you've heard and thought had an idea of, you can definitely email us.
Yeah, so the idea behind the YouTube ones, all that needs to happen is the teacher just emails us our email address and says, I'd like to send you some stories. And then we say, okay. And then they email us some stories. And from each class, we can't really do that many from each class. If you imagine if we have however many teachers email us and then we've got hundreds of stories to read, that's not really going to work. But if the teacher wants to let their class know just at the start of a writing topic that one of them is going to be chosen to be read online, then that will give that early motivation, and then they can send it through at the end. So it's as simple as just emailing us and saying we'd like to get involved, and then you're involved.
The beauty of it is as well, we don't tell the children just yet whose story's next. So there's a kind of an eager excitement waiting for the next one to come up to see whether their story is the one that we're telling.
Fantastic. So it's magical from start to finish. The whole project, the whole idea of Enchanted Wanderers is exactly that there's a mystery and a way of being which is like we said before, it's very open and it's very creative and expansive for the children. And I think that's such a wonderful thing. It's why I wanted to chat and sort of get that sense across. You know, as doing an English and literacy season, I didn't want it just to be about this is how you write this word and this is how you do X and this is how you do Y. It's just broadening that right out, just so that actually our whole idea of how we go about all these things can be very different, and there are people out there that are doing it, and I congratulate you on doing it, and I really appreciate the fact you came on and has explained it to us, and I hope lots of people get in contact and get involved.
Oh, thank you so much. No, it's been great. It's really nice to have the chance to talk about it and put it out there, and you can probably tell we're quite passionate about it. And we would love for it to kind of get out there and
most definitely
reach as many children as we can.
Yeah, and if it inspires teachers too to add a little more creativity into their world. I mean, I don't think most teachers need inspiring on that part. I think it's more the bravery of actually saying, I want to do this and this is what I'm going to do with my children because I know them really well, which often is the thing that is a bit of a battle in school. But I love the fact that we could be a part of inspiring something along the way somewhere for some child.
I think definitely being able to say I've heard this podcast and I can hang my hat on the fact that this goes on and this is happening and we can be involved in whichever way that happens to be. And like I say, even if they take parts of this and are able to recreate it themselves, I think, like I say, sharing those ideas is really what this podcast is all about. So thank you very much. As I said, if you go to educationonfire.com and in the search bar just put Enchanted Wanderers, all these links and everything will come up. And of course, if you go online and put Enchanted Wanderers, they will pop up there too. You go directly to their page and find all about them. So Emmy and Taran, thank you so much for chatting, and I'm so glad we can do this. It's still a marvel to me, the fact that we're on opposite sides of the world. You're over there in Australia, I'm here sat here in the UK, and we're just chatting as if we're in the same room, which is fantastic. And I really appreciate your time and your enthusiasm, as you said, and it's been great chatting.
We love that. Thank you so much, Mark.
It's been wonderful, and agreed, it's amazing you're sat in the UK and we're here in Australia and this is happening.
Enjoy the rest of your time in Australia, and I look forward to maybe catching up when you come back to the UK and hearing a bit more about the stories that you've been telling.
Ah, nice. That'd be great.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information of each episode and to get in touch, go to educationonfire.com. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.